Hello and welcome to Brewers Daily. I'm your host, Dave Gasper. Lots to get to here on the show today. The Brewers had an off day on Monday, but we got another pitcher highlight. We're going to run through some out-of-options players here for the Brewers, and we got to talk about this news with the spring breakout that we got this week, and also we're going to be getting some rosters on that later in the week, but more on that later. But first, coming up here today, the Brewers had the off day on Monday, obviously, and now with it being Tuesday, the Brewers are back in action in Cactus League play, and they will be taking on Team Great Britain as they prepare for the World Baseball Classic, which will be getting started this week. So that's very exciting time. And so the Brewers are going to be getting a chance to take on these guys to help prepare them. And the Brewers are not going to take it easy on the Brits. You got Jacob Mizorowski, who's going to be starting for the Brewers. You got Kyle Harrison, who's also going to be pitching after Miz. So you're throwing two of your best, essentially, at Team Great Britain. So that's going to be a great welcome to the WBC. I expect this might go something like USA against them in 1776. It could be what we're expecting here, but. Great Britain, you don't necessarily think of them as a baseball powerhouse. They do have Jazz Chisholm on their roster. They do have Harry Ford, who was a big-time catching prospect for the Mariners, who I believe got traded this offseason. And then outside of that, there's not much. You got Christian Robinson. You got Trace Thompson, who's Klay Thompson's brother. And then kind of a whole bunch of names I've never really heard of on the offensive side of the ball. They do have Vance Worley, former Phillies pitcher. And there are a couple of Brewers minor leaguers on Team Great Britain. Jack Seppings and Miles Langhorne pitched an A-ball last year for the Brewers. So there's a couple of guys on that staff, but Team Great Britain not really expected to be a powerhouse here in the World Baseball Classic, and they're going to be coming in and facing Jacob Mizorowski and Kyle Harrison. Yeah, that's not going to be fun for them, but I'm excited for it. The Brewers side, we're going to be very much excited for it. So Jacob Mizorowski is going to have a chance to showcase that on an international scale there, taking on Great Britain. But that's the game coming up here today for the Milwaukee Brewers. So very excited to see how that's going to end up going. And also coming out, we saw this news, the spring breakouts, so the prospect showcase that they added to spring training a couple of years ago, they're now going to be expanding it starting next year into a single elimination tournament. So previously it's been basically kind of single games where it's just, okay, you put together your roster of basically all your top prospects and then just play against some other team's top prospects that MLB just kind of schedules and puts in as an extra spring training game for these minor league guys to get showcased. So that's what it's been, but now they're going to be moving to a tournament style where in the Cactus League and in the Grapefruit League, all the teams are going to have their prospect showcase, their spring breakout teams, and they're just going to kind of play each other single elimination March Madness style because we love March Madness, right? And just kind of single elimination moves on until they crown this spring breakout champion and kind of see who's got the best prospects, I guess, which I do kind of like that aspect of it because it's like, okay, yeah, you have your best prospects playing against the Royals' top prospects or the White Sox top prospects. Like, okay, cool, but what does that really kind of mean in the grand scheme of things? So you have this little bit of a tournament, so you can kind of crown like, okay, this organization perhaps has the best team of young prospects. You can kind of look at it that way. So either way, I'm very much excited for it. I think that's a great way. If you've known me or followed me for any length of time, going back to reviewing the Brew or on the radio or wherever else that you've seen my content before, I'm a big prospect fan. So getting more prospect content, showcasing them more, getting more of those games, I am all for it. I think it's fantastic for the game. I think it's fantastic for the players to help those guys, be able to be on a little bit of a bigger stage than they normally are, being down in A-ball or double A or whatever it is. There's still a ton of prospect hype in general for some of these guys, but to have that little bit of a bigger stage in an actual game setting, I think is really cool to have more attention being paid to it. I think is fantastic. I think that is a very positive thing for the game of baseball to see these young guys coming up and what they can be for your team in the future. And I'm very much excited for it. So the actual rosters for this year's spring breakout game, those are going to be announced on Thursday. So we'll see if they get it announced in time for Thursday's show when that happens. I doubt it, probably, but still, either way, once those rosters come out, we're going to talk about it. I'd imagine you're going to have Jesus Made on the Brewers spring breakout roster this year. Luis Pena probably. Cooper Pratt, I would imagine, would be there. Then you're looking at, obviously, Bishop Letson in all likelihood. Josh Adamszewski, really, Brock Wilken, Andrew Fisher would be at the World Baseball Classic, so not him. Blake Burke, all those guys. All your kind of top prospects. You have Marco Dingus in all likelihood going to be there. So they're going to be putting that roster out later on this week. Those rosters coming out on Thursday. So once we have them, we'll certainly be talking about them here on Brewers Daily. So be sure to subscribe, get notified when that episode drops so that you don't miss it as we break that roster down. But that's going to be very exciting. This tournament, they're starting it next year. They're not doing it this year just because with the World Baseball Classic, some of those guys being out, like there's enough focus on that and that tournament that they can worry about the spring breakout tournament being next year. So that makes a ton of sense to me. All right, now let's get to our pitcher highlight of the day here. And we're going to be talking about Kyle Harrison, who is going to be making his Cactus League debut here today against Team Great Britain. Kyle Harrison obviously coming over in the Caleb Durbin trade with the Boston Red Sox. And Harrison, he's bounced around. He was drafted as a San Francisco Giant in the third round. And then he was traded to Boston in the Rafael Devers trade. And then 6 months later, he gets traded again. Or 7-8 months later, it doesn't matter. But either way, a few months later, he gets traded to the Milwaukee Brewers in the Caleb Durbin deal. So he goes for Rafael Devers and then for Caleb Durbin. Just kind of a very interesting kind of value swing there. And typically when guys get traded twice in that short of a time span, it generally means there's something weird. There's something wrong with them. But also, the Red Sox have kind of like flipped almost everyone from that Rafael Devers trade. I mean, they were just trying to offload the contract and just kind of getting whatever back. They already traded out Jordan Hicks. They already have made moves from other guys. So now they trade out Kyle Harrison to the Brewers for Caleb Durbin. And Harrison's still just 24 years old, drafted out of high school, so started young in his professional career. Seems like he's been around for a while, but still 24 years old. He's got a couple years of MLB experience already under his belt. So he's got more than some of these other guys that the Brewers have competing for their rotation. But his experience at the big league level hasn't been all that great. He's got a career ERA of 4.39. All three of his seasons, he's had ERAs over 4 at the major league level. He throws 5 pitches. Primarily, he focuses on his four-seam fastball. His slurve is his primary secondary pitch. Also throws a changeup, a cutter, and a sinker. So he's got a couple different fastball variations in there than the slurve and the change as the breaking balls. Well, serve as a breaking ball, changes the changeup. So that's what he's working with the pitch mix there. Fastball averages just around 95 miles an hour. So, I mean, not a super insane fastball for a starting pitcher. But Kyle Harrison, I mean, being a lefty, I think that's important. So it is above average fastball for a left-handed pitcher. Gets good extension down the mound. And really, I think the Brewers, that they see the traits, that they see the stuff that they can work with Kyle Harrison, that they want to run him through, as we were talking about on yesterday's show, the H&H car wash. The Hook and Henderson car wash, washing dirt and adding vert. They're going to find a way to probably add vert to some of these pitches and find a way to just get him to optimize his pitches. Make whatever tweaks that they have to. That's why we haven't seen him in Cactus League play to this point. They've been trying to make those tweaks with him and work with him on the backfields and the bullpen sessions and the simulated games. They've been making that work there. So that's why we haven't seen him in game action yet. So now they're kind of ready to roll him out here a little bit. So I'm very excited for what they're going to do. with Kyle Harrison because they clearly saw something. They know what kind of pitching they are good at developing. They know what they are good at developing. They know what they can do. They know what kind of tweaks to make, and they target guys that fit those traits, that fit those characteristics, that fit that mold for them. And they have done it incredibly well. So I'm fully expecting a really good season out of Kyle Harrison. I mean, he's had, again, a career ERA of 4.39, never had an ERA under 4 at the big league level. And I'm going to venture to say, this is going to be a bold take. I'm going super bold here. How bold? Very bold. I'm going to go with an under 3.5 ERA for the season for Kyle Harrison. I mean, he's going to drop this ERA probably a full run, I would imagine, from where his career number is, just about 4.4. I think he can drop it a full run, just this season. I think he can drop it in the 3 to 3.5 range, and the Brewers are going to make those kinds of tweaks with him, and he's going to get a really good opportunity to be in this rotation long term because, number one, he is left-handed. That does help him in this case because the Brewers don't have a ton of other established starting pitchers that are left-handed. The top 3 in the group, Woodruff, Priester, Mizorowski, all righties. Chad Patrick's a righty. Logan Henderson is a righty. You got Robert Gasser, who's a lefty. That's cool, but he's only got about 5 starts of MLB experience. Aaron Ashby, D.L. Hall have been largely relievers the last couple of seasons. So then you get Harrison in there, and Harrison does have a lot more starts under his belt at the big league level, being left-handed, making these tweaks. So I think that gives him a very good chance to end up in this initial starting rotation, but even if not in the initial one, being one of the first guys to come up when there is an opening. So I think Kyle Harrison's going to have a really, really good season. The Brewers see something in him. There's a lot of talent in there. He was given a first-round signing bonus for a reason. So Harrison, I think, they're going to be able to make work, and that ERA is going to be under 3.5 when we get to September and October and the regular season comes to an end. I think he's going to be having a really, really strong season for this group just because of that H&H car wash and what they're able to run him through. Okay, so moving on, finally here, just to kind of wrap up, I want to talk about guys who are out of minor league options because you're in spring training here, got roster decisions to make, and minor league options are a big factor in terms of who makes the final roster spots. And for the Brewers, they love having flexibility when it comes to their roster. So guys who are out of minor league options, a little bit tougher for them, being forced to carry them. They don't have a ton of those guys. That's kind of part of the constant roster churn and turnover, where the guys who are getting older, who are out of minor league options, they kind of move on from them, trade them out, and they bring in young guys who do have minor league options. So just running down the list here, everyone that they got that is out of minor league options, a lot of them are the vested veterans. Okay, Christian Yelich for one, Luis Rengifo, another that they brought in, Gary Sanchez, Jake Bowers are all out of minor league options on the position player side. Because once you get 5 years of MLB service, then you can no longer be optioned to the minor leagues without your consent. So those guys all have 5 years or more of MLB service time. Everyone else on that position player group does have an option remaining, including William Contreras for at least a little bit, Bryce Terang, Sal Frelick, Jackson Chourio, Andrew Vaughn for a little bit. None of those guys are going to be optioned down anytime soon, but they do still have them if the Brewers wanted to go that route for whatever reason. But, same thing with David Hamilton. He has an option left. Joey Ortiz has an option. Garrett Mitchell has 3 options. Blake Perkins has 2 options, but Pat Murphy says he's never going to send him down to the minors, so we don't got to worry about that. Jefferson Caro has 1 option year left, which the Brewers are going to be using. And that's it from the, position player side. Stuart Baroa, Tyler Black, Akil Baddoo, all those guys have 1 option remaining, so no worries there. And then on the pitching side, Brandon Woodruff, obviously vested veteran, can't be optioned. The one that is an important one to note is Rob Zastryzny on the pitching side. He is the only reliever on the 40-man roster who is out of minor league options. So that means the Brewers have to carry him on the 40-man roster. If they want to send him down to the minors, they would have to put him on waivers and risk losing him to someone else. So Rob Z, I think he has a good chance of staying on the opening day roster. Not only because he was very effective for them last season, and the Brewers do like what Rob Z brings, but also because he is out of minor league options. I think they're more likely to want to carry him through at least his first part of the season. If he struggles, then they can DFA him and put him on waivers and try and bring him back that way, or just let him go. But either way, they do have kind of a logjam there of lefties because now you got Koenig, Ashby, Hall, Angel Serpa. You got Shane Drone in the mix too as a lefty reliever. So they do have a lot of options for lefties. So I could see something happening there with Rob Z, but I do think they like him. So I do think there's a good chance that he ends up sticking around, at least for the time being. And then elsewhere on the pitcher group, I mean, all the starting pitchers have minor league options. And the relievers, Yoho, Easton McGee, Sammy Peralta, they all do have options remaining. The only other ones that don't have minor league options are the non-roster invitees, Peter Strzelecki and Jacob Wagspack. So, but they're not on the 40-man roster. So the Brewers can stash them in AAA to begin with and not have to worry about optioning them or putting them on waivers. They can just be on that minor league deal. But once they call them up to the majors, like if the Brewers wanted to call back Peter Strzelecki, then they can't option him down without him having to be put on waivers. So that does make things a little bit restrictive for them roster-wise. But that's the updates. Those are the guys who are out of minor league options for the Milwaukee Brewers heading into the season. But a lot of these guys still have them remaining. Contreras and Vaughn are going to lose them at some point throughout the season because they'll hit 5 years of service. But it's a pretty flexible group that the Brewers have, especially in that starting pitching group. All those guys have minor league options remaining, so they can mix and match as much as they want throughout the season. So we'll keep that monitored as well as we go throughout the year, as we will every single day here on Brewers Daily. Be sure to subscribe, get notified every single time a new episode drops. Follow me on Twitter as well at dgasper24. Appreciate you watching, and we'll see you again next time for another episode of Brewers Daily.